All right, cool. So, guys, I'm bringing Dr. Mike Patten here today to talk about his unique nutritional approach. Mike is someone who's worked with me, and he's been talking more about his approach, which I actually don't know much about. So, I'm going to be asking him questions, and we're going to be learning more about his unique approach that gets amazing results for his clients using nutrition from, again, a totally different way. So, Mike, if you wanted to, start just kind of telling us more about the basics of your approach, and he's going to share some cool client stories and all that, so we'll get to hear all of it.
So my approach is pretty unique out there. I kind of have took a bunch of what I've learned from different people and kind of pulled them together. But kind of the baseline of my approach comes from Dr. Loomis, Dr. Howard Loomis Jr., and his work on enzyme and enzyme therapy nutrition. So he actually developed his work. The reason why I like it so much is because he developed it back in, he was in the 60s when he got out of chiropractic school. So 70s and 80s, he was in Forsyth, Missouri, and he developed this on people. So that's why I like this approach so much, because a lot of times you get into vitamins, mineral supplements, even treating someone, and someone thought about it or they found it in a library. And they went, oh, you need calcium, so here, you need to take this much. This is a recommended daily allowance. So what he would do is someone would come in their office and he would examine them and see what's going on. And then he would develop an enzyme product to take that away. I mean, I really condensed and simplified that story, but I've been following him for about 12 years. So I kind of made that a little small. So I've took a lot of stuff from his approach. So his approach is that there are three sources of stress. There's a mechanical stress, an emotional stress, and a nutritional stress. Those are the only three kinds of a stress that exist anywhere. And so men are the source of all stress, if you want to use acronyms. So the ladies will like that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the mechanical stress, I use a technique called the zone technique, which you're familiar with the zones.
Yep.
So that does fantastic for clearing out the mechanical side of things. So for mechanical, to just kind of break that down, I try to break down everything I can so everyone understands it. But mechanical stress, hit your head, neck hurts. Okay, that's really easy. You adjust it or clear it out, however you clear it out. But for me, it's adjusting it, making that mechanical stress go away. Mechanical tends to be your miracle cases.
Oh, I think you got muted for a second there, Mike. There we go.
Sorry, I was getting a call on my phone, so my.
Oh, okay. I was like, I lost you. Is my internet connection bad? Okay, cool. So,
no, I can't hear you. That's lovely.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Okay, does that work now?
I hear you. Yeah, can you hear me? I lost you again. I don't know if you minimized the screen.
Yeah.
I hear you now.
Good.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
I had a call come through on my phone. And
I know. That's the annoying thing about the phone sometimes. I've been there on a huge live call, and I'm like, oh my gosh, come on. There should be like a setting that says block. So last thing you were saying about like your miracle cases is I think the last thing I.
So mechanical stresses tend to be your miracle cases because they walk in, you adjust them, they get off a table, they say, I feel fantastic, this is the best thing ever, and they walk out.
Yep.
So those are a lot of the ones you see with chiropractors really hit those miracle cases where it's, someone felt terrible, they got adjusted, and you can name any condition with it because of how the reflexes exist between a somatovisceral reflexor, so a muscle to an organ, or even a muscle to an emotion, or muscle to a muscle response, and you adjust that nerve supply, gets better instantly.
Yeah.
So that's just one aspect. So there's two more. So you get to the emotional side, that's the work you do.
Yep.
And so that's getting into the somatic visceral response, somatic or the visceral psychosomatic responses where someone can have muscle tension. It's coming from an emotion, release that emotion, they feel it instantly.
Yep.
So that's part two. And that's the part that I've been trying to learn recently, because that's the only part that I really haven't had a good handle on.
But now
Part
you will.
three, yeah, that's part of the ARC training right there. I'll give you a plug.
Yeah.
So part three is the work that Dr. Loomis has taught me over the years, and Dr. Firkin has really been he's Dr. Loomis's right hand man. They've really been instrumental in teaching me a lot of this. Dr. McCaffrey has taught me a lot of this too. So what I do with that is, if someone's in my clinic, what happens is I come in, I clear all their zones out. So at that point, everything from a structural standpoint should be clear. Then what happens is I'll lay them on their back on a table, and Dr. Loomis developed what's called a pelvic pattern. So the pelvis, you can actually see where the body is focusing its energy, whether it's in the cervical spine, thoracic spine, lumbar spine, or sacral spine. And then you can determine if that's coming from a mechanical, emotional, or nutritional stress.
Very cool.
So then once we got it pinned down, I'll get you all cleared out, and all of a sudden be like, okay, like the last patient I just had, he had a nutritional stress coming straight through his small intestine, and that was basically causing his muscle to come up in his neck, and he had this popping sensation when he turned his neck. So I know that, okay, he's got it in the small intestine, it's nutritional. I know he recently changed his diet. I can support that with enzymes. In his case, he didn't want to do that. So it's like, okay, well, then we're just going to keep adjusting it, work in this area, and we're going to see it get better. It's just going to take a little longer.
Yeah.
You know, that's just kind of the rule of the game. If they don't want to do it, I'm not going to force them. But he's getting improvement. His neck was about 60% better today from about 3-4 days ago. And so I can see right where that stress is coming from. I know what's causing it. I know how it's impacting that area. And so his neck problem is really a nutritional problem coming out of his small intestine, which is just pretty wild in itself.
It makes sense to me, and I think for a lot of people watching, that might be like, how the heck does that relate, right? I think people be like, how's my small, and I think people get at the basic level that our bodies are connected, right? But it's still like, how does my small intestine relate to my neck? Is there anything else you can share to explain that connection? Like, it might not be that simple to explain.
Well, you're going to get some of the musculature around the spine without getting too technical. How it connects is they run up.
Yep.
So as they run up the spine, you're going to get some of that mechanism of pulling. You're also going to get that mechanism is going to be there. You're going to get local muscle contraction, which then you're not going to get the movement in the spine in that tissue either, which is going to place problems above and below that area. Those are probably the most simplistic ways to do it. But yeah, you're going to get muscle contraction. Anytime there's some sort of visceral dysfunction, there's going to be muscular contraction. And that muscular contraction is going to inhibit motion somewhere. It's just a matter of where that is and what it's causing it to do. So yeah, that's how I do it in my clinic and hands-on. I figure out, okay, where is the stress coming from? What's causing it? How do we balance that body? What does it need at that moment? Do we need to clear an emotion coming through the liver that's causing headaches? Do we need to adjust an upper neck to get rid of the headaches? What is the underlying cause? Which the 3 areas does the body need right then? And so that's kind of the way I look at it.
So let me ask you this. So, are you, I mean, obviously it depends on the patient who's in front of you, but are you pretty much always applying all those levels at once for the most part? Like, do you find you need to apply, or would it be optimal to apply all those 3 levels for most people that see you?
I try to address all 3.
Yeah.
I clear out the zones first, because that's going to take care of the mechanical. If there's any mechanical problems, that's cleared out. So then there's going to be emotional, nutritional component under there. So I check to see if there's something there and what that body is presenting to me that day. Sometimes it says, hey, and the pelvic pattern is going to tell me where it's going to shift to too. So if I see a problem that's between the shoulders, and then once I clear that, it's going to shift to the sacrum, I know that this person, I can clear both those things, and I know, okay, they're going to be better, but we're not quite over that hump. and there's actually a pelvic pattern that's normal. So when I start getting, hey, they got a problem in their lumbar spine, their lower back, but after I clear this, it's going to go to normal. I know they're going to get better, and I know that they're going to get better fast.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know you've mentioned, and I don't know too much about this, but I know you've mentioned like the urine panel, like getting a urine panel. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying this was something developed by Dr. Loomis, correct?
Yeah, so he was trying to figure out a way to basically understand it. I'm going to try to get him in an interview if I can and have him explain how he
That'd
came
be
up with
sweet.
it. But he took a bunch of different tests and he put them together, and it's basically like explaining how the body is balancing right now. So when you put food in there, what happens? Like,
Yeah.
can the body break it down? Can it not break it down? And each of these tests have been run for a long time. They're pretty simple tests, but he found how to integrate them. The dude is one of the most intelligent guys I've ever met in my life. He's ridiculous. But because one that's a classic example, a lot of people get it tested nowadays, is a specific gravity. So if you go get a urinalysis done, there's going to be a specific gravity. There's normal range. I don't think I've really ever seen anyone outside of normal range when they just do one in a hospital, like a spot check. Like you go in and they're like, hey, collect your urine, they do it. So, but the way we do it is it's over a 24-hour period. So like if you're really dehydrated, you notice your urine's really yellow. So there's a small output, but there's a lot of stuff in it. Okay? So, but if you're really hydrated, it's like clear. So you got a big volume, but there's not very much in it.
Yeah.
So it tells us, can the kidney actually concentrate the urine, or is it struggling to do that? Now, if the kidney is struggling to concentrate the urine, then that body can't clean itself. So every time that person eats, it's just filling up with waste that it just can't get rid of. A lot of times that'll be called auto-intoxication. A lot of people call that leaky gut.
Yep.
You know, you hear people who've termed it as leaky gut. It can be a leaky gut. Oftentimes it's just the kidneys can't clear. It just can't get rid of the waste. And so the best way to do that is just to get the food out, just not put so much food in. And a lot of people get really concerned about, well, what if I miss breakfast? I'm like, well, you ain't
Oh
going to
gosh, yeah.
starve and you ain't going to die.
What do you mean? But listen, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, don't you know?
I love that comment because I always say, okay, who made the recommendation? I'm pretty sure
There was a
the
cereal
governing
company.
powers that made those recommendations have only seen our incidence of diabetes and heart disease and everything else skyrocket in the last 20, 30 years. So I'm not going to believe their recommendations.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we're not suffering from a deficit of calories. Most of us, right? Like,
No.
I think we're doing okay.
Well, and I've even started to wonder about, do calories actually matter? Like
Oh, this is a good topic right here. Yeah.
and this is something that I've been wrestling with lately, and I just need to sit down and I just really need to process and think because, like, okay, so if you have, say, 2 cans of Coke, what is it, 180 calories or 200 calories in a can or something?
Yep.
So you get like 400 calories in 2 cans. Well, if you eat a steak, like a 6-ounce steak, you're probably going to get about 400 calories. The Cokes are not going to make you full, but the steak will. And you're not going to have sustaining energy from the Cokes, but you will from the steak. So they have about the same amount of calories, but they function entirely different. So I'm starting to wonder, do calories actually matter, or is it more just a macronutrient that we put in and a good quality of it?
So this is my belief on the subject. It's been for a while. Is like, yeah, the latter, right? Like the quality of the food intake. Because it's like, is an apple? Let's just say an apple is 100 calories, and then we got a donut, which is 100 calories. Which that's probably a very small donut. But
Yeah.
Is that really going to process the same way in our body? Is our body going to process the calories the same way even? I mean, my thought on that is probably not.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if we're talking about, I know you might have a different view, but like the micronutrients and stuff is obviously different too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on this, I want to talk a little bit more about your philosophy of this nutrition. So actually, let me go back to the urine panel real quick though. So when you're doing a test, then are you looking is it ideal to have more sediment, like more concentration coming out, or does it depend?
There's a balance. I'll walk you through a urine panel, and that will trigger some more questions, answer some. So I'm gonna flip my camera around. So this is an actual urine panel once I get my camera flipped around here. First, I'll show you the diet. This is a young lady. This was her diet the day she collected, because I have everyone collect their diet. That is Mountain Dew. She had one bowl of Frosted Flakes, Pringles salt and vinegar, sunflower seeds, and one plum. That was her diet for the day. And this was a normal day for her. Okay, her diagnosis was hyperthyroidism. When I asked her if anyone asked her about her diet, she said no.
Oh, yeah.
I know, it kind of makes you ill, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So this is what our urine panel looks like when it's all done. Okay. I need to get my camera so I'm looking at what you're looking at. All right. So we see right away up here, we look to see if there's actually any disease processes going on.
Yeah.
And she's already starting to put some urobilinogen in there, which is telling us that there's a little bit of liver stress. She's got nitrates, leukocytes, so she could have an active UTI going on. So that's something to consider, we put in the back of our mind. So then we look at here, and what we aim for is everything right in the middle. This is balance. And the further we get away from the line, the bigger the problem becomes. So we look at this one, and you think right away, you're like, oh, well, this right here is sediment, that should be a big problem. And then we look, there's chlorides really high, that looks like a problem. Volume's really low, specific gravity's up here. So I'll walk you through this just like I would anyone else. So indican is a measure of bowel toxicity. It's literally when indole is formed from protein rotting in your gut. It's a very corrosive substance, and that gets formed. And so hers is actually the normal range. So we go, okay, so that's normal, so we're not going to worry about it. We see sediment here. Sediment is a sand that is formed in digestion. This is calcium oxalate, that's fatty acid digestion. Hers is at a 0.7, so I just say 7 because it's easier with big numbers. So hers is a 7, it should be a 0. So we're like, okay, so she has some issues digesting fat. See, calcium phosphorus is 0.2, and it should be a 5, and that's from carbohydrates. And we're like, okay, so she's struggling. She's struggling with carbohydrates. And well, I'll get to the diet.
That's what she's eating mainly, right?
Right. And you see her diet, and we're like, well, no wonder it's depressed, because she's eating nothing but simple carbohydrates, which drives that number down. Complex carbohydrates will actually drive that up. Uric acid is protein digestion. That's 0.1, which is high, but not terrible considering what everything else is. So with her number way up here, this gives us a lot of indication to how she's handling food, which means she's really not utilizing what's going in her mouth. But it gets even more interesting than that when we go. So we see her calcium goes normal. So we don't even worry about that. So her body's not holding or throwing calcium. Her pH is slightly on the acidic side. So regardless of what people say about trying to get more alkaline, I actually don't agree with them. We shouldn't get more alkaline, because you need acidity in the body. It needs to be balanced. But to eat more fruits and vegetables, where a lot of alkalinity comes from, makes total sense to me. But the idea that you should drink alkaline water, I think, is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with that.
So we see pH is a little down, so her body's a little on the acidic side, but not terrible, just outside the normal range. Her chlorides are sky high, and her volume's really low, her specific gravity. So basically with her problem here, her number one problem is right here. She is dehydrated. So looking at all the stuff right here, her number one issue is she is dehydrated. So this is what I did with this young girl. We see all the stuff going on. I can see that, especially with this way down here, her specific gravity should be way up here, and it's not. So she's dehydrated, and her kidneys aren't able to actually keep up with what she's putting in there. So she's starting to bloat and starting to swell and getting all these symptoms. So the only thing we did with this young lady is we put her on one enzyme to help her break down and utilize her food better.
Yep.
We increased how much water she was drinking. Her chlorides were going to balance naturally. So this is going to be salt. This is going to balance naturally as we changed her diet. pH will do the same. So everything revolves around trying to get this right in the middle of the panel. So we changed her diet, put her on one enzyme, got her to start drinking more water, got her off the Mountain Dew, got her off all the junk. And so she had, what was it? 2 weeks out, she was down 10 pounds. Within a month, she was down 20 pounds, felt completely normal. All her tests came back positive within a month.
Just those simple changes.
That's one enzyme, and change what she's eating, drink some more water.
And that's pretty amazing. Now let's talk about the changes you made for eating, so people can understand. Because from what you shared with me, it's actually, you know, it's not even that complicated. But combined with what you're reading here on the urine panel and then the enzyme, it's like you could say magic, right?
Right.
Seemingly.
Right. It's super simplistic. I keep it really simple. The fun part is a lot of people are always like, but you're taking away everything I eat. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the point. If you're eating breads and pastas and cereals, it's like, that's what got you into this trouble. And if you want to move away from it, you have to change something. You can't just sit still and just say, this is what I'm going to do. Because it's like, if this is what you're going to do, then why would you ever expect a different result?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, so my basics around my diet's kind of, the way I build it is it's proteins, fruits, and vegetables. And if it's not one of those three things, you're not going to eat it. And I take out corn, I take out potatoes, beans, rice, all that stuff comes out. And I make it very simple because the body can process those foods very easily. And it's going to help balance that urine panel out. And people see great results with just that. But what I do with the urine panel is then I take that diet and I kind of tweak it to the person. So based on how much they work out, based on how big they are, you know, because if you're a 6'8", 400-pound dude, well, obviously you're going to need a little more food than 5 to 100-pound female. So we got to be able to change for each individual. Between that and then seeing how they break down their food, if they really struggle with carbohydrates like that young girl did, I'm not going to let her have as much fruit as someone who doesn't struggle with carbohydrates.
Got it.
So I can kind of see, okay, what do you handle? What do you not handle? What's your body saying? How do we need to tweak it? Even when I'm looking at certain things like pH too, that might play an effect on how I adjust the diet from there. But I mean, the main kind of simplistic form of the diet is proteins, fruits and vegetables, and those are your carbohydrates. And, proteins can be anything: chicken, turkey, fish. I mean, I really don't care. I'm like, go for it. Whatever you like, have it.
Yeah. Okay. And now with this protein, vegetable, fruit, is this something they go on? Is this ideally recommended permanently, or is this like in the interim and then you add stuff back in as they're better, or how does that kind of work?
I usually generally go with a rule of thumb of plan on 3 months being really strict and don't cheat at all, because then you can really change the lifestyle. Does it mean you can never have a pizza again? No, because I love pizza.
Yeah. Yeah. People are probably happy to hear this.
I'm sorry, I love pizza. My wife and I have a tradition. We go out for pizza every year on an anniversary. And so I love pizza. I want to eat it again. With that said, I make sure that I have the enzymes I need when I go have that pizza. And I'm not doing it every day. I always say, what's a reasonable activity? Is it reasonable to have a pizza every week or two? Sure, you're not going to have it for every meal, and the rest of the meals you're going to have your diet locked down. So I believe that's a reasonable activity that your body can handle.
So
now,
would you say, okay, yeah, no pizza every day, ideally. Like I saw a show once where the guy, that's all he ate was pizza. I think one of those like obsessive eating shows. Like, how do you not get sick of it after a while? Even I don't know.
I don't know either.
But so basically, you say once they're healed, like a good 3 months. Ideally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they can basically follow what, like an 80-20, 90-10 kind of philosophy, would you say? Is that accurate to say, or?
Well, your body's going to be pretty darn healed up after 3 months. And so I want people to be in tune with their body and what it's telling them too. Like if you're getting really bloated and feel gross after you have a pizza, maybe that's something you just shouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's things like that too. Be consciously aware of what you're putting in your body and how your body is responding to that. And that's why I put 3 months on there too, is because you'll change a lot. You'll find a lot of things that you do enjoy eating that are not the carbohydrates that you had before. And kind of once you make that switch, all of a sudden you're kind of like, oh man, that pizza was good, but I really kind of want my steak and asparagus. That sounds real nice. And you start noticing, hey, those foods actually make me feel better and I can perform better and operate better.
Awesome. Love it. So, there's a lot of, obviously there's a lot of different philosophies on nutrition, as we know, right? Like, and this one's really simple. Would you say every client who follows your recommendations, do they get better, like following this philosophy here that you have?
I just thought about that for a second. The ones that actually, they follow directions, they follow through, they do extremely well. I see really high success rate. There are people, and I believe that's where the emotional component comes in that I didn't have before, that I had some people that just didn't see the results that I expected. And I think that's because I didn't know how to address the emotional component underneath it. And that was the part that I'm missing. But since that, I've kind of been able to take it to another level too now, because now I can just clear that out of there. And so those aren't the issues anymore.
Yeah.
But no, success rate's really, really high. I mean, it'd probably be obnoxious if I put a number on it, because people are wanting, because if they're wanting to get better and they're willing to make the changes to do it, they see results.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like anything. If you want to see the change and you're willing to put in the work, it's just like going to a gym.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Because there's a lot of philosophies. For example, there's like, paleo diet, right? There's ketogenic, there's veganism, fruitarianism, and like, and I followed a lot of these groups. For example, like I've seen fruitarian groups, for example, or similar, who are very like detox heavy, if you will, right? They're all about, you've probably seen those as well. They're all about like detox. And then if anything negative's happening with the process, they're saying, oh, it's just detox or whatever. What are your thoughts on that? And that's a little more of an extreme case, but I think it's worth mentioning because that's becoming a lot more out there. And I think people are experiencing it more and more.
Well, one problem with detox kind of drives me nuts sometimes when I hear the word detox, because I don't think people really know what they're detoxing.
Yeah.
So if they're detoxing, yeah, you can totally be trying to get rid of waste and trying to and struggling to get rid of it. Like that young girl, she had to go through a bit of a detox. She actually got sick the first weekend when we put so much water in there because her kidneys were overwhelmed and they couldn't get the waste out. There's a detox.
Yep.
Like she felt terrible because she couldn't get the waste out. Now, if you're in the middle of something like that and you're detoxing, like they say, I'm like, okay, so the only thing that actually detoxifies anything is in your liver, and it's an enzyme system. And then you also have to look at, can the kidneys function? Can the lymphatic system move? Can the lungs breathe? Can you do these things? Can you break down the food that are coming in? And those people that, the fruitarian, whatever they're called, I don't mean to offend them if I did, but I can't even think of the word right now. Anyways, the question to them is, can they break down the fruit that they're putting in? Are they overloading the body with too many of those natural sugars where their body can't do it? And so then what their body's going to do is they're going to take it and it's going to start making triglycerides, fatty acids, and shoving that as a fat store. So it still comes up as to, can you digest what's going into your body?
Yeah, so I like that. So it would be like, the biggest thing I would take away from that is like, almost no matter what you're doing anyway, let's just say someone wants to follow a different philosophy, whether it's more ideal or not, it comes down to, can you digest and assimilate? Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, totally, 100%. Can you, with the food that's going in, can you break it down and can your body utilize it? Another key component would be can you clean up, pick up the waste and get rid of it?
Yeah.
So can you get the food in? Can you bring it to the cell? Can the cell utilize it? And then can it get rid of the waste and remove it from the body?
Yes, love it. And that's probably why there's this huge variance with people, right? Like on different diets. Some people are like, I did really well on the keto diet. Another person's that was terrible for me. Another person's like, I did really well being a vegan. Another person, that's terrible for me. It was horrible for me.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that's why? Kind of what you're talking about right there?
Yeah, because they don't understand what they can and can't digest. So you'll hear someone get great results on keto because they can digest fat, and then you'll hear people that get terrible results because they can't.
Yeah. See, I think this right here, that alone right there is pure gold. And I think for anyone watching, so you could actually break down your health into really, I think, really simple stuff from a nutritional standpoint. Can you digest and assimilate it, and can you eliminate the waste?
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably your main problem with your diet. And of course, you know, you could talk to someone like Dr. Mike who does it his specific way, but even just taking those key components, I think could change a lot for people's nutrition, right?
No, absolutely.
Like, I don't think many people even think of it like that. They're just like, most people are going to a diet, like, how fast can I lose weight, right? Like, how, you know, I want the ketogenic diet because I can lose weight. And, you know, I see this in these groups all the time because I have friends who are in that kind of lifestyle, and they're in different ones. Everyone's kind of in these different things. And you'll see people in the group, they're like, I'm gaining weight and I feel terrible. And, you know, and people will be trying to like guide them through, oh, it's part of the process. And I'm like, I don't know.
No.
Is this really part of the process? I don't think so.
No, they have, their body isn't balanced. That's what it is. Where's the fire, and can you put it out?
Yeah. No, I love that. So that's perfect. So we'll leave it at that then. If you guys are watching this is some seriously invaluable information. And you can reach out to Dr. Mike if you want to learn more, or myself. I can hook you up with him, and we can talk about like I'm sure. Is there what's the best way to like find out more about what you do, find out more about the urine panel and things like that?
You can just find me on Facebook and shoot me a message, and I can get you any more info. I'm putting more videos out there too, just explaining the process and what I do, and as much as I can, just follow along, ask questions when you have them, and I try to get back to everyone if they ask a question. I got a bunch of people asking questions after videos, and so my videos are going to slowly be incorporating all those questions, because if one person has them, everyone has them. Yeah.
And then can people run like from a distance, say if they want to do this from a distance, can they run a urine panel? Like, can you just send them the stuff to do it and they can run it from anywhere?
Oh, absolutely. We have a bunch of people doing that. I actually have a lady in Rhode Island that just did one here not too long ago. We send you the whole kit. We explain to you how to do it. The results come back to me. We set up a Zoom call. I tell you exactly what's going on in your body, tweak your diet, figure out what enzymes you need, and we can totally balance everything from there.
Love it. Now, what's the another thing that might be worth considering is what's the average cost? Because I know people might be used to really expensive lab tests and stuff. How does this compare?
There's some variables in there. That's probably the best way I can explain it.
Okay.
There's variables, and so it's hard to just say, hey, it's this much. So there's some variables. So I'm just gonna, if someone's interested, they could totally reach out to me, and because I like to not only just run the urine panel, but also make it where I'm involved in the step along the way, and so then I can put the urine panel in a package for that person and actually set up weekly calls with them and just kind of work through the whole process and make sure everything's going smooth. So someone can totally run a urine panel if they want. But I really prefer to just do a whole package where I'm meeting with them and walking through everything and healing, clearing up stuff as we go.
Thank you, bud. My son. Perfect. So yeah. So basically, what you're saying is everyone's going to get their own, like, ideally, because you can just run the urine panel, but obviously without someone interpreting it or anything, it's almost useless. Right.
Absolutely.
So they'd get that, and then to be able to work with you in a customized program. Right. That's customized exactly to them and exactly what they need. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So guys, if you want to do that, reach out to Dr. Mike Patten on Facebook. I mean, he'd love to answer all the questions, I know, because we were talking on Messenger. We could talk for days on this stuff. Anything else you want to add? Or is that about?
No, I got to get rocking. I think I got some people here trying to bang my door down.
I know, man. I'm late. I'm late too. But well, if you guys want to, we can actually get another thing going. Talking about more specifics. We could do another interview. But also, like Dr. Mike said, he has stuff on his page explaining some really cool stuff with videos that he has on his page. So you can just check those out. All right,
Yeah.
so we'll go ahead and stop that, and we'll be good.